My boyfriend suddenly told me he wants to establish traditional gender roles once we get married. I have been with my boyfriend for 3 years now and it has been wonderful. We have been talking about marriage lately as it felt right for the both of us. Over the course of our relationship, we often talked about what our goals are and what we wanted our future together to look like. I was always vocal about how I wanted a more equal non-traditional relationship. We both work, we both don't want children. I expect to have a joint account with him and pay our expenses proportionally based on our income. I do make more than him but I don't mind since I believe us to be a team. And for the last 3 years, he's agreed with me. Or so I thought. These past 2 to 3 weeks, we have been setting a timeline on our wedding plans and all. Basically talking about all the concrete steps and little details. And so I asked him again, how he wanted our marriage to be like but in more detail. He suddenly told me that he wants us to have traditional gender roles. And I was so confused. These past 3 years have not been that way. I am so confused how he just expects us to change after marriage. I have been dating him and wanting to pursue something serious with him because I love our current dynamic and he seemed happy too. I have made it clear since day one that I want to maintain what we have now until forever. He has never told me that that was not the case for him. Now, I feel tricked/lied to? He told me that although I make more of the income, he wants to be the man of the house. The leader, and so, what he says goes. He has the final say in the decisions and I cannot be questioning him. I told him this will lead me to not being heard and miserable. It will make me feel less valued. He says it's the best way to avoid arguments. Sure, less arguments because what I think wouldn't matter but I will build resentment and then it's no longer a happy marriage. In my previous post, I mentioned that I have seen him binge watching alpha male podcasts recently and I don't know if he has always thought this way or if it's recent. All I know is that my whole body is telling me this is not it. I cannot marry him. It sounds like trouble. But am I correct for thinking this way? I don't know why but the last 3 years have been so wonderful that it's so hard for me to wrap my head around this. This sudden switch. Please give me some advice and courage. Comment. Bow out now. Divorce is so much more expensive and difficult than just bailing now when he's telling you exactly what he wants and you hate what he's saying. 3 years wasted better than 10 or God forbid more. He will probably also push her to quit working so then she is dependent on his income and he can control her that way. This is a run from the guy situation. I dumped a guy like this. He expected me to work full-time, pay 50% of the bills but pretend to our friends that he earned more money and solely kept the roof of the house that's only in my name and that he moved into, over our heads but did all of the housework, cooked, did his laundry and made sure he had a constant stream of beer and snacks when he gamed. He lived with me for 3 weeks before I kicked him out. Nope. Like ops bloke, he came across as liberal and said he was a feminist. Claimed that he was for equality and wanted to split finances plus chores 50/50ths with a partner. We were together for a year before he moved in and it was kind of gradual over the 3 weeks he lived with me. The final straw was him wanting me to pretend he earned the most money and I didn't pay a penny towards my own mortgage. For the record, I told him to go fuck himself when he told me that doing his laundry and providing him beer/snacks when he gamed was my responsibility. He framed it that being looked after was his love language. I told him to fuck off back to his mother in that case. Do you think he actually thought he was a liberal feminist? Like truly believed it himself or just straight up lied to your face for a year? I'm sitting here trying to think of a legitimate reason I would ever ask someone I'm dating to lie to my friends and I'm coming up blank. Insecurities get the best of all of us at some point, but this guy just straight asked them to take the wheel. Truly fascinating to hear about. I appreciate you sharing. That's a difficult one. I feel like he put on such a good front and really had me convinced, and he ended up believing it himself, you know? I ended it a couple of years ago now and I've had a lot of time to reflect. There were other instances over that year that, now, raise a red flag. At the time, in isolation, it wasn't even a blip on my radar. Knowing what I learned in the 3 weeks he lived with me, coupled with all those other isolated incidents in the lead up to it, he was a walking red flag and absolutely not a feminist. It's odd how someone can leave you feeling so hoodwinked. This is what people don't understand, imho. Pick better doesn't work when your partner is putting 110% effort into convincing you that they are everything you want. Most women won't stay with someone that treats them like shit from the start. In retrospect, yes, there are red flags. But there is also a sea of green flags, 2. It's not as easy to detect as it sounds. The vast majority of relationship abuse starts after a significant investment such as cohabitation, purchasing a joint asset, marriage, pregnancy, etc., because they know they won't get away with it otherwise. Before that it's just small, isolated incidents that they spend a crazy amount of energy convincing you were blips. Yeah, the idea is pick better when you know better, and don't stay with someone because of sunk costs. Often they hide who they are, but in retrospect the red flags are obvious. That's not the person's fault, but those red flags and others should be remembered for the next relationship. There's also pretty good books now on how to pick red flags up, like The Gift of Fear. People also like why does he do that? I think in the case of this top comment she did the right thing and kicked him out quickly. Some would have dithered for years after that because of the first year being good. Obviously none of it's easy, it's all hard and painful and sometimes not possible if you don't have the resources. I get what you mean, but I think a lot of my confidence and ability to nip the bullshit in the bud early on comes with age. I'm 42 now and this happened when I was 40. I don't adhere to the societal bollocks of having to be in a relationship to be happy now. When I was younger, I certainly put up with a lot of crap because I was convinced that being in a relationship, even a bad one, was better than being single. Relationships are a learning curve for us all. I doubt that. I think he likes the quality of life that Dink gives them and they won't have children that necessitates a SAHP. What is more likely, is that he'll expect 50/50ths on bills/rent/utilities, which is fair when they're both employed, but household tasks are also gonna fall to her. Traditional when it suits him, someone to keep the household running, but without taking on the provider role that usually goes with it. So she'll be stuck with laundry, dishes, cleaning, cooking, grocery planning, shopping, gift planning for in-laws and no say in any big discussions or choices since he's the man of the house, while also paying half the bills. Hard pass. Next story 2. I found out about secret party that I wasn't invited to for close friend. Lied to by omission. I talked to my husband about this, and he says he understands why my friends lied, and it was only to not hurt my feelings, and I shouldn't be as upset as I am. But I am really upset and hurt and would like others' opinions on this. Last week a good friend of mine had a milestone birthday. I live a couple of hours away, but I am in her city usually every other weekend to see family. After texting her the day of her birthday, she let me know that she didn't do anything special to celebrate, so I asked her what her plans were the following weekend. I would come into town, and plan something great to celebrate, with a few of our mutual friends. She said yes, and to make the plans for Friday, as that day works best for one of the mutual friends. I research what is happening in her city that weekend, and plan something fun. I text our mutual friends, let them know what I planned, and asked if they were interested and if they wanted just us ladies to go out, or if we wanted to include our spouses as well, or if they had any ideas they wanted to do. And no one got back to me. I texted the birthday girl that I received no responses, but I still wanted to celebrate her and go out, and asked if she wanted to move the plans to Saturday since we didn't have to work around the friends' availability anymore. I felt a fool that no one planned anything special for her. But she stated let's stick to Friday. I'd have to leave work early, and drive in traffic, but no problem since it worked best for birthday girl. Yesterday I find out that birthday girl and mutual friends and spouses have a big dinner out planned for Saturday, and planning for that started even before I reached out. Which explains why Friday works best. It's at an upscale restaurant, and will be mostly comped as one of the friends' spouses has a business relationship with the owner. I believe that the number of guests could only be a max of 8, because it's at the chef's table and cannot accommodate more than 8 people. There are 5 couples in our circle of friends, but I guess since me and my spouse don't live in their city, we were not invited originally. The only reason I found out is that one of the spouses are very sick in bed, and definitely won't be well enough in 2 days to enjoy a big night out, so the spouse reached out and let us know that we can now come, since there was space. I guess this is why I was told to plan a night out on Friday, and why I was getting no responses from friends, because they were already going out the Saturday and not able to have 2 big nights out in a row. I am so upset. And it's not because I wasn't invited. I understand they have to work around the restaurant's seating, and definitely would not expect them not to go because we couldn't be accommodated, especially since most of the bill would be compensated. I am upset that they had so many opportunities to tell me that they had plans the next day, and were not up for a night out the day before this dinner. They didn't tell me why they couldn't go out on Saturday, just that they were busy. This explains the ignoring of my invitation. I am quite sure that they would have kept the whole evening a secret, had one of the couples not cancelled. I am upset because I feel dumb that they decided to lie by omission, had a conversation amongst themselves and agreed to not mention these plans to me. I'm upset because I planned all this stuff because I felt horrible that no one else planned anything for her, but turns out they did. I was just not invited. My feelings are hurt, and I declined the invite, and cancelled the plans I made since no one but the birthday girl was going to come. I'm just so upset. That not telling me to not hurt my feelings somehow makes it worse. How would you react to this? Comment. I mean, I get you are out of town and might have been the reason you weren't invited, but now 2 days before the event they tell you about it? Probably only because they figure you were planning to be in town anyway, so you can fill the spot. It's a crappy thing to do. I mean, why not at least let you know what's going on and the reason for the decision? Then you wouldn't be blindsided by people avoiding responding and lying by omission. Instead, it looks like you were excluded and now can conveniently fill the spot. I'm sure they didn't mean any harm and thought, very wrongly, it was the best course of action. What were they going to do, just continue to never mention and continue to omit that they indeed did get together? Yeah, like that would work. You know, someone would slip sometime. It would suck more to know this was what happened. Honesty would have been so much better and less hurt feelings. Yeah, I'm with you. They somehow managed to convince themselves that the easiest path for them would spare your feelings. No one could just say what was happening? It's always possible that there's a history of you not wanting to hear it, but frankly you don't have that tone at all. Usually it shines through. I think they chickened out and they all gave each other cover and no one would just be straight with you, and it sounds absolutely awful. I think the one who had the chef's gift was the instigator too, and no one wanted to eat her out. But I am just guessing based on having seen other groups do similar things. Totally shitty, and you have every right to be upset. Personally, I would start keeping an eye on the one who hosted the dinner. I bet this is part of a pattern. I'd be hurt and upset too if that happened to me. I'd probably also start asking questions about myself. Am I actually the most easygoing, reasonable, and undramatic of the group? Or do I take over the whole night? Do I make everything about me? I'm not trying to be mean, but I've met people who are completely unaware of how draining they are to other people. I might be completely wrong, but sometimes a tough look at yourself might be needed. Yeah, some people get themselves excluded. But this sounds like her friends really couldn't use their words. Op didn't blame them anywhere and she sounds honestly confused. It really sounds like the friends felt awkward and didn't want to explain when explaining was inconvenient, but then when it was convenient for them, they suddenly learned how to use their words. I'm betting the one who planned it instigated the don't tell op and no one wanted to confront her or blow up her spot. Then when she had an extra spot and was going to look bad to the chef, she was hoping op could help her out. I would be upset and done the same thing you did, cancel everything. They should have told you, and yeah, it would have sucked there wasn't room for you, but you and her still could have done something Friday and you wouldn't have been wondering or worrying. That's just wrong. Your reaction is exactly what mine would be. I'd be very hurt in your shoes and also questioning the friendships I had with these women. Maybe start looking to meet some new friends closer to where you live.